You've probably heard the name Audie Murphy. He was a true American legend, a celebrated war hero, a Hollywood actor. But that's just the surface. The real story? Well, it's a lot more complicated, and honestly, a lot more human. So let's dive in. So, when you think of Audie Murphy, this is probably what comes to mind, right? The handsome movie star, the hero fresh off the battlefield. I mean, he was the poster boy for post-war America, a real-life Captain America, if you will. And get this, the guy's resume didn't stop there. He wasn't just a soldier and an actor. He was also a songwriter, had songs published and everything, and a successful rancher, too. It's kind of nuts, right? How did one person fit all that into one lifetime? But let's be real, what truly made him a legend was his service. We're talking about the most decorated American combat soldier of World War II. Out of, 16 million people who served, he received every single U.S. Army medal for valor that existed. Just let that sink in for a second. Every single one. But, the medals, the fame, all that stuff, it hides a lot. And the truth is, the toughest battles Audie Murphy ever fought were the ones you couldn't see on a newsreel or a movie screen. So to really get who this guy was, we've got to go way back. Before the war, before Hollywood, back to the cotton fields of Texas. Because he was fighting a whole different kind of battle, long before he ever put on a uniform. I mean, his childhood was just brutal. He was born into this huge family of sharecroppers in Texas, so they were incredibly poor. Then his dad just up and left them. By the time he was 12, Audie had to drop out of fifth grade, just to pick cotton to help feed the family. And then the absolute worst thing happened. When he was just 16, his mom died. She was everything to him. And you can just feel the pain in his own words. He wrote this later. When she passed away, she took something of me with her. It seems I've been searching for it ever since. Wow, that sense of loss really stuck with him his whole life. So after Pearl Harbor, like a lot of young guys, Audie runs to enlist. He wants to do his part. And here's where it gets almost funny if it weren't true. The Army turned him down. The Navy? Nope. The Marines rejected him too. Can you believe it? They told the future most decorated soldier in America that he was too small, too underweight to serve. But if you know anything about Audie Murphy, you know he didn't give up. So his older sister helped him out. She fudged the date on his birth certificate to make him a year older. He goes back to try again, and boom, this time it works. The kid that nobody wanted was finally in the Army. And well, once he finally got into the fight, he was an absolute force of nature. This is where the boy from the cotton fields becomes a legend. Okay, so picture this. It's January 26th, 1945. It's freezing. You're in a forest in a place called the Colmar Pocket in France. And what's about to happen right here, this is the moment that will define his entire life. So, a huge German force, we're talking infantry and tanks, is coming right at them. Murphy's the officer in charge, and he tells his men to pull back to safety. But he stays. He climbs on top of a burning U.S. tank destroyer, which, by the way, is basically a giant bullseye. And for the next hour, all by himself, he just lays into the enemy with that .50 cal machine gun. He takes out about 50 German soldiers. He completely stops their attack. Then, after he runs out of ammo, he gets down, wounded I should add, and leads his men in a counterattack. It's unbelievable. For that insane act of courage, he was awarded the Medal of Honor, the nation's highest possible award for bravery in combat. Years later, people would ask him, why? Why'd you do it? Why'd you climb on that burning tank? And his answer wasn't some big speech about freedom or duty. It was simple. He just said, they were killing my friends. But coming home from the war didn't mean the fighting was over for Audie Murphy, not by a long shot. In fact, for him, some of the toughest battles were just beginning. And this is really the core of his story. You have this huge gap between the public image and the private reality. To the world, he was this smiling war hero, a star in over 40 movies. But behind closed doors, he was haunted. He couldn't sleep, he was battling depression, and he had these horrific nightmares, night after night. See, back then, they didn't really have the language for it. They'd call it battle fatigue or shell shock. Today, we know exactly what it is. Post-traumatic stress disorder, PTSD. And Audie Murphy had a severe case of it. And these invisible wounds were no joke. He slept with a loaded pistol under his pillow every night.
He got hooked on sleeping pills just to get a moment's peace from the nightmares, and he ended up having to lock himself in a hotel room for a week just to kick the addiction cold turkey, all by himself. But here's what makes him a hero all over again. He started talking about it, publicly, at a time when nobody talked about mental health, especially not war heroes. Audie Murphy broke the silence. He was one of the very first to say, hey, this is real and we need to deal with it.
And that bravery, it made a huge difference. In his honor, they dedicated the Audie L. Murphy Memorial VA Hospital down in San Antonio. It just goes to show, he fought for his fellow soldiers long after he left the battlefield. So when you look at the whole picture, the dirt poor kid, the unbelievable soldier, the movie star, the man struggling in silence, what does it all add up to? What is his legacy? Tragically, we never got to see the end of his story play out. On May 28, 1971, Audie Murphy died in a plane crash. He was only 45. And, these two images right here, they might tell the story better than anything else. On the one hand, you have this big public monument near where his plane went down. And on the other, you have his headstone at Arlington National Cemetery. So simple. See, as a Medal of Honor recipient, he was entitled to a special headstone with gold leaf on it. But he specifically requested not to have it. He wanted his grave to be just like any other soldier's. And isn't that something? After everything, he just saw himself as one of the guys. And today, his simple grave is the second most visited site in all of Arlington, right after JFK's. His story is just incredible. It shows you the absolute peak of human bravery, but it also shows you the deep, hidden price that often comes with it. And it leaves us with a really tough question to think about. What is the true cost of being a hero?